Hello, good day, everyone. Corrie here, coming in to do our weekly energy update. We have a lot. Um, we have a lot that is kind of feeling like, holy crap, what are we, what are we up to? I feel like we're crossing over. We're kind of like we're getting lost in like it's like we're getting lost in translation. There's just a lot of things that is taking place. There's a lot of movement that's happening, but there's also a lot of friction. I'm like too close for comfort sometimes, and sometimes we're just like bordering um on those threads of tension. And so there is some tension that is also very present right now. And we also have Venus in retrograde. And being Venus in retrograde is it also gets us looking at relationships. It gets us looking at exploring, going deeper into what we know of love and how we understand love. And so I want to kind of take it to that place of the power of love and the love of power. And there is a huge difference. But we also have this energy that is just saying, where there were, you know, how we're so spellbound, and how you can be so spellbound by fear, by all of those things. And prime example is if you look at, we were just talking about this, if you look at, weather, and they talk about, and I keep getting this frustration around this, but I'm like, if it was 10 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, we spoke about being, say, 25, 26, 30 degrees was not extreme heat warnings. You didn't get warned to stay inside. Now, all of a sudden, I'm in Canada, so it's in Celsius. Now, all of a sudden, if it says 26, 27 degrees, it's like, well, you better stay inside. We have extreme heat warnings, da 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 da. So, is how much real how much energy is put into, not arguing whether it's right or wrong, but how much energy is put into getting us to respond to specific energies in specific ways, to manipulate change, to bring change, to use fear, to manipulate, to motivate. And that is done on so many levels. Now, we also do that ourselves. We hate it, we don't like it, but yet how many places do you do that within your own self, to yourself, that you're motivated by those fear stories? Now, learning and understanding the divine essence of love is that there is no motive to manipulate. There is nothing that has to be changed about us. There's nothing that has to be fixed about us. It is about a level of awareness of what have we done to ourselves? What have we done to take away from our purest of light? How did we get away from our pure essence into creating these senses of seeking and searching out identities, or to be caught in isms and addictions and patterns and behaviors and all of those things? How do we, what is those catalysts that bring us into being able to convince ourselves that we're something we're not, or that we're greater than we are, or that we need to self-sabotage, to destroy, to really truly connect to something? And so how do we move from being this powerhouse to being a jester, a joke to our own stories? And I want to go to my painting on the wall. She keeps speaking to me. I hear her, and she's from my Paint Me Beautiful series, and she is the first painting you see on top over there. And no, I'm not some great professional painter. I channel. And so she was channeled through to me. And she's really speaking to me today about, how I painted her and I made a joke out of her. And then I'm like, oh, she needs these big teeth. And oh, she needs this and she needs that. And in it, I had a real serious eye-opening awareness of how much of myself I had destroyed, either to be a rebel, either to fulfill these unmet needs that I thought were desires and passions, and they weren't. They were nothing of the sort. They were to it's like the dopamine fix, right? It's the essence to keep feeding and dancing with the shadow, to the dance with the devil story, to dance with our own little monsters, to create our own little monsters, because then our own little monsters can devour all that is good within us. And so this energy is teaching us a lot about what is real love. And when we learn to come into relationship to the soul, into our soul essence, we learn to fall back into love with our pure essence, our pure truth, that to be grateful and have such gratitude that when somebody can see our soul, when someone can see our real truth, and they want to enhance that within our lives, or when we see it within ourselves, and then we want to go beyond. And that's where my second book comes in. That's where my truth of existing beyond the reflection comes in, is there was such a desire that when I could see the essence of the soul and I could see that the divine exists within myself, is that from that point, all I wanted to do was to really, truly get to know that version of myself. I wanted to come back home. And how many times have you said to yourself, I feel like I'm lost. I feel like I'm away from home. I feel like I'm so far away from me. And that is such a truth, that we do get lost, and we get lost in translation, and we get lost in what we're being fed, and how we're being fed artificial enjoyment, artificial imitation light. Is like, this over here will stimulate you. This is joy. This is what good sex is. This is what good love is. This is what good enjoyment is. It's all this. And it's like, who created that? And what's it selling? So what are you being sold, and what are you selling yourself, so that you can be a part of, when we look at archetypal energy, is that we all have the addict, we all have the wounded child, we all have the what we call the prostitute, and that is where we negotiate and sell off the best versions of ourselves for temporary satisfaction, or out of fear, out of feeling like we're missing something is lacking from our lives. And so those energies, what even for myself, one of my most recent ones was really realizing that I'd been kind of chasing some sort of safety. And even though I know all the safety story, even though I know, how safe are we really, and that we're safe in the arms of the divine, and we're safe with ourselves, but you got to learn, you have to become safe with yourself, so that you don't negotiate off, you don't sell off the best parts of you, you don't buy into and believe the imitation of that light. You're not feared into these stories. And so this weekend's energy is really bringing it up to test you. There is a challenge that's going on to challenge you to say, I know that not to be my truth. Can you see truth? Can you see your truth? And so when people are arguing, I'm like, well, you're right and you're right. And they're like, well, how can both of us be right? I'm like, because you both have a story. So to you, your story is right. To you, your story is right. So it's right to feed the narrative. So it keeps you in being able to feed your anger, your frustration, to create your enemies, to create your false sense of light and love, whatever it may be, to create your social circles, to feed your ism, to feed your addictions, whatever it is, it's right for whatever that story is. But how courageous are you to awaken your spiritual courage, to call all of it out and say, what is the real truth? What is there? How much more truth is this? Why does this story, why do I argue so much about this? What is this feeding within myself? What am I seeking? What is my agenda behind this? So what is that agenda? And then to come back into this divine essence, and to come home, to breathe into you, and to have the courage to dive deep, to ask yourself, to look at things. How well has the things that you've been doing in secret, or the things that you've been arguing about, how well is it serving you? How much joy is awakened within you? How much true happiness? How's your life working out for you? What are you always chasing? What are you always hiding? What are you always having to make up for? What is always raveled up in the stories? Why are you always chasing love through all the wrong kind of people? It's because you're still trying to make up for what you didn't get met in your early childhood years. And so this energy is giving us an opportunity. And we're being told, and I know this is the divine speaking to me, we're being called up and in with absolute compassion, absolute love. We know how hard this has been. And this has been a very difficult journey to take, and life has not been easy. Yet here we are. What if all of those all of those images that you've now created from the pixels, maybe we can turn the channel. Maybe we can start to see through what is really truly being fed through the system to get us to be afraid, to fear. And love does not contain that fear. Love has the courage. And I can tell you this, love has the courage to look at even the ugliest of things and say, I can still see, and I can still care, and I can still be a support. And how do we support that? And how do we need to be in this situation? But also, not just by allowing yourself to become a doormat and let people walk over you, by also being able to say that to yourself. That how do I, what do I need to be supported? And sometimes that means I need to truly be honest with myself and sometimes walk away and trust in the process that if it's meant to be for me, it will be healed, cleared, resolved as it returns to me. That it will find its way in, that we can transmute wisdom. We are connecting into a new level of wisdom and consciousness that is beyond the human knowledge that we have been programmed and taught. It is going so much deeper than that. So this weekend, I challenge you to really, truly look into you, look into life, look into the things, the habits, behaviors, patterns that you've been on repeat, that you've been, or how quickly you are to get to feed into the narrative of anything that manipulated by, that master manipulation to be able to trigger a response to get you to react, to get you to jump on board, to build fear, to build, in masses. Whereas, when the lights start to come on and truth starts to come in, people stop paying attention to what is false, and they start to learn to heal this instinctual self so that you can trust your own gut, trust your own instincts. Does this feel right? And it's always a thing of when people say, yeah, they're so on board with this and I'm against this. But when that thing they're against is also bedded into what they're supporting, then they're like, then there has to be an excuse. If you have no excuse, if there is no excuse, if you have no excuses, if you can't accept it over here, but it's in here and you can accept it, how can you accept it in your story, but you can't accept it in somebody else's? How? So I always tell people who are enabling story situations, I'm like, okay, so you have to look at yourself. You have to look at yourself. When you want somebody to give up something else and you see the addict in somebody else, you also have to look at your addiction. So sometimes that ability to keep enabling something is a part of where the addiction archetype energy, it doesn't mean you're an addict. Well, we all have addictive behavior, just like we all have narcissistic tendencies. Because these things were all words that were added, it is called emotions, and it is emotional responses. And it's how we emotionally respond. Take away the language and you'll change the narrative in the story. The language is designed to put the spells on us. It's there to put us labels on us. It's there to put us into a story, to create a character, all of those things. Without all of that, sit with that self, sit with the soul essence, sit with God, sit with the divine, sit with the beings, sit with the angelic realm, whatever you want to call it, sit with that energy, and just with nothing but the energy, with nothing but being able to sit in an unidentified love, allow love to embody and to encompass you, and notice how different you'll feel. There's a state of peace and gratitude and gratefulness and bliss and radiance and joy that exist. And trust me, it's a beautiful journey when we fully can really let go. So this weekend, I challenge you to really sit in this, share with me those experiences of when you stop, before you respond, before you jump, before you react, breathe, before you label somebody, before you turn somebody into something they're not, including yourself. Stop, breathe into you, take a moment, and just sit with the divine and just allow this love to come in. And trust me, he'll begin to learn a little bit more about love. Much love. Have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.